What is a UBI? UBI is an acronym for Universal Basic Income, an income given to everyone. As AI increases automation rates, it is necessary that we introduce a UBI directly proportional to the percentage of jobs necessary for a universal standard of living that have been automated. So, as automation increases, UBI also increases. Suppose we define all the jobs necessary in order for every human to live a life in accordance to some universal standard of living. Let's look at a very small piece of the pie, mining. 150 years ago, people used to work much more hazardous and repetitive tasks in the mine. Importantly, the salaries earned for this necessary human labor went to the working class. In a single mine, it took hundreds or even thousands of people to produce far less material than it does today with a fraction of the workforce. Today, far fewer workers are necessary to maintain a highly productive mining operation. They get paid more, but there are far fewer of them. And where does the money that used to go to the working class now go? The massive reduction in human labor is due to the advent of powerful automated machinery that has transformed nearly every aspect of mining. So where does UBI come in? When a job that used to be done by a human is now done by a robot, who should benefit? There is some cost for maintenance, a cost which can be brought down with further advances in automation. With AI, automation is surging. If a robot can perform more efficiently than a human, the company which employs the robot will be more profitable. We can use AI as a tool for the good of all humanity by making sure the salaries deleted by automation stay in the working class. Outside of a diminishing maintenance cost, the salaries saved by automation should be given back equally to all humanity. This is done through a UBI. How would a UBI work? In the first of a two-part series, the logistic function, a key element to a UBI, is explored. A UBI would pay each human to live, not lavishly, but by a universal standard of living in proportion to the percentage of jobs necessary for a universal standard of living which have been automated. Salaries saved by automation currently go to the ownership groups of corporations employing automation. Top executives, often billionaires, take in the majority of all the salaries proved unnecessary through automation. For these salaries to go back to everyone equally, that means taxing the giga-rich. Note the prefix giga for giga-rich as opposed to mega for mega-rich. Advanced automation without a UBI means the few at the top absorb the majority of the salaries saved by automation, further increasing their rates of wealth production. Without change to the current political economic system of government, we will soon have terror-rich. Terror-rich, more like terrible. From most of the world's point of view, the current global wealth distribution is not good. The world's top 1% own 46% of the wealth, while the bottom 55% own 1%. Under the current system, the inequality only grows with automation. In this graph, all people are listed in decreasing order of net worth. The curve starts off the charts high, reflecting the top 1% owning 46% of the wealth, then rapidly decreases, with most values very small, reflecting the bottom 55% owning 1% of the wealth. While naming the curve generated by wealth data is highly complex and heavily researched, it's easy to observe the massive inequality. A description for the curve must include a small portion of the population holding a large percentage of the total wealth. An exponential curve models this behavior with people now listed in increasing order of net worth. Concerningly, while wealth distribution for all except the ultra-wealthy is modeled well with an exponential curve, there is even more inequality towards the ultra-wealthy end of the curve than an exponential curve represents. The particular functions describing the current global wealth distribution are studied in a future video. When the underlying functions describing a system experience an abrupt change, it's critical to study the rules causing this behavior. In the case of the ultra-wealthy requiring a new function to describe their wealth distribution, the rule causing this behavior is tax brackets hitting a ceiling at 37%. The solution to this problem, which has been and will continue to grow humanity's mass inequality, is to continue tax brackets past this point. These extreme tax brackets are reached only by 100 millionaires and billionaires in order to fund a UBI so that salaries which used to go to the working class are split evenly among everyone instead of being siphoned to the ultra-wealthy. Such a change would tend the wealth distribution of the ultra-wealthy closer to the wealth distribution experienced by the rest of the world. Also, the UBI pays everyone a fixed amount, and the wealth distribution of the world would change accordingly. Suppose the UBI was $15,000. Here, a dotted line is drawn adding $15,000 to everyone's net worth. It looks like no change has been made. When the top net worths are in the 100 billions, adding 15,000 hardly changes the graph. Zooming in to the near horizontal area of the curve shows the main impact. A substantial increase of financial security is felt by the 55% of people with a net worth below $10,000. This is summarized by saying a UBI increases the floor of net worths. The policy to enact such a change, called the logistic tax curve, is explained in Part 2. Logistic functions are used for growth which starts exponential before leveling off due to limiting factors. Places where logistic functions are seen include carrying capacity of animal population growth, the spread of infectious diseases, as we saw in COVID, and market penetration of new products and business. In terms of the logistic tax curve, the logistic function is applied to the percent of which the nth dollar of net worth is taxed. Existing tax brackets demonstrate the beginning of this idea until flatlining at 37%, resulting in humanity's mass inequality of net worth. This mass inequality will only continue to grow because the 100 billionth, trillionth, and 10 trillionth dollar is still taxed at that same 37%. If tax brackets continued up to 52%, 68%, or any arbitrary number under 100%, there would still exist a group of high-earning individuals with enough net worth such that they enter the flatlining bracket of taxation, where they play by a different set of rules than everyone else. To curtail growing mass inequality, the percent of which the nth dollar of net worth is taxed cannot stop at any arbitrary 37%. It must go to the natural limit, which is 100%. This new policy A logistic tax curve combined with a UBI directly proportional to the percent the jobs necessary for a universal standard of living have been automated works in the financial interest of the non-ultra-wealthy and in the collective interest of humanity through increased financial security, allowing more time to be spent following creative passions. How would a UBI work? Part 2 of 2, Tax Mathematics. In Part 1, the logistic function was explored. The namesake for the logistic tax curve, this function is crucial in understanding how a UBI works. In this video, the mathematical implementation of the logistic tax curve is studied. In order to change the distribution of wealth, we need to tax wealth. In other words, tax net worth. Currently, we have a tax bracket system such that higher earners pay a larger percentage of their income in taxes. That is, until $609,351, meaning the $609,351 of income is taxed the same as the 1 billionth of income, heavily favoring billionaires, and extremely dangerous for the rest of us in the presence of advanced automation. We will apply a continuous tax curve so that billionaires pay their share. Here is a logistic tax curve accounting for a UBI. On the bottom x-axis, we have listed the net worths a person may have. Note the x-axis is listed on a logarithmic scale, as net worths cover a wide range of values. The left y-axis lists the percentage of which the nth dollar is taxed. For reference, in purple is the current income tax bracket system, which is less of a curve and more horizontal lines with jumps. On this logistic tax curve, the 1 millionth dollar is taxed 1%, meaning you keep 99 cents of your 1 millionth dollar. Then, your 10 millionth dollar is taxed 4%. You keep 96 cents of your 10 millionth dollar while still keeping 99 cents of your 1 millionth. Observe that the amount taxed is the area shaded dark red below this curve up to your net worth. To further incentivize work in the presence of a UBI, none of your first $100,000 in net worth is taxed. After $100,000, the percentage grows slowly at first, then accelerates, and finally slows down, approaching near 100% taxed. Billionaires would experience extreme taxation to account for the salaries proved unnecessary by automation being distributed to all people. This S-shaped curve, the logistic function, is given by the following equation. The exact mathematics is important and should be studied for a deeper understanding. But far more important is the idea of a logistic tax curve as opposed to the current 37% flatlining and extreme inequality-inducing tax bracket system. We can discuss actual numbers, but similar to Universal Standard of Living job automation percentage, these should be heavily scrutinized. One implementation is the following function. The first term is the logistic equation, while the second term is the offset for no tax up to some value, C. To implement, we need to fill in the variables with numerical values with the variable descriptions shown. For an example, assign these variables the following values. The following curve is created. The tax owed can now be calculated for any value of net worth. For example, take a net worth of $4 million. The tax owed is calculated by finding the area under this curve up to 4 million. This is found with an integral. We see that under this implementation of a logistic tax curve, a net worth of $4 million corresponds to $64,363.88 in tax owed. This implementation assumes 100% automation of universal standard of living jobs for a full UBI. We have a significant non-zero value at the moment, but not 100%. Say universal standard of living job automation percentage were 30%. Then everyone gets 30% of a UBI sufficient for a universal standard of living. For tax paid, first calculate the amount owed through the pre-existing tax structure and through the logistic tax curve. Then you pay 70% of the taxes owed through the pre-existing tax structure to reflect the 70% necessity of human labor for a universal standard of living. Also, you pay 30% of the taxes owed through the logistic tax curve. The change from no automation to full automation occurs on a spectrum, and this tax system reflects that. With this system in place, advanced automation would be a tool for humanity to get away from repetitive jobs, approach financial security through UBI, and allow more time to work on creative passions. This is how a UBI works. It's something so amazing that it's difficult to know where to begin. Human intelligence separates humanity from anything else in nature. Nature is as beautiful as it is brutal. The modern world puts a divide between us and nature. But nature is where humanity and all other life came from. Nature's harsh realities are necessary for an organism to collect and store energy more efficiently than its neighbors. Within a species, sexual reproduction creates genetic variations, and the variants which are most favorable for survival will be passed down to offspring. This natural selection is inherently self-interested, either for the organism itself, the organism's family, or the organism's tribe. In nature, an organism does not show compassion to another outside of their tribe. Humanity was no exception. Providing food, water, and shelter for you and your kin was a requirement for early humans to survive. Humanity separates from other forms of sophisticated life in the size of their large brains, especially in relation to the size of their bodies. Complex language, tools, and controlled fire were the foundation for an intelligence that would go on to prove that a big brain beats the strength of a polar bear, the quickness of a cheetah, and the might of an elephant. This problem-solving brain laid the groundwork for civilization through the invention of specialization of labor. Before specialization of labor, a person's time was divided between all the tasks necessary for their survival: gathering the wild plants, hunting the meat, sourcing all the water, maintaining a shelter, and keeping the fire going. Let these pie charts represent a group of 5 people. Specialization of labor is the idea that instead of having every human do all the things necessary for survival, a group can combine forces and have each human focus on one particular thing, then share their production among the group. The sum of what a single person could produce was greater when they specialized on one thing than when they divided their time amongst all of the things necessary for survival due to the development of an expertise, making specialization of labor evolutionarily advantageous. At this point, human labor was absolutely necessary to sustain life. There was not time for humans to explore passions or creativities unless they had evidence that they would contribute to survival. If a human did not work to contribute a basic need, they would not be entitled to the production worked for by others in the civilization. Thus, during early human history, a creative lifestyle was naturally selected against. There's a quote explaining the early stages of human history. Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. As specialization progressed, technological advancement opened the door to some amazing innovation. For example, take the invention of the wheel. Any human in charge of transporting heavy loads now had a method for reducing the required human labor. Human labor was still absolutely necessary to achieve the work, but the human had more time available for creativity or to work other tasks. Innovation created surplus, and humanity realized the necessity for a political economic system to manage the complex societies being created. Many were tried with varying degrees of success until one which, through harboring innovation better than any political economic system before it, would dominate the world: capitalism. Equipped with the innovative strength of capitalism, humanity entered the Industrial Revolution, a time of major technological improvement. Humanity had a dominance over all other life forms and would take advantage of the unlimited natural resources at their disposal, just as any animal would, because humanity obeyed natural selection, and all other animals were competing for the same resources. Humanity was naturally motivated to take as many resources as possible for themselves. Humanity's form of natural selection was a bit different, as society had laws which took away the brutality of nature. However, just like in nature, self-interest or greed was selected for, and those who were most greedy were better able to make their own money, to raise their own children, and pass down their own ideologies. This was the way it had to be, because human labor was still mostly necessary. But the tremendous innovation humanity was experiencing launched an amazing, powerful, and potentially dangerous outcome of innovation: automation. Automation, just like most things, is gradual. The first sniff of automation does not eliminate human labor. Instead, it means less human labor is required for an equivalent or better product. In early stages of automation, the effect is barely noticeable. During these times, even if there were people that could foresee that automation killing jobs meant capitalism could no longer work on its own, it would not be politically savvy to advocate for a solution that would not go into effect until advanced automation is developed. But when advanced automation arrives, a political economic change is absolutely necessary. Humanity needed natural selection of self before automation, along with suppression of passion for those in the working class, for the ability to innovate. Capitalism was the means necessary to introduce automation and an escape from natural selection. Natural selection brought humanity a brain which could create new ideas at a faster rate than natural selection itself can. Proof: humanity can imitate natural structures in our own inventions by incorporating nature's inventions into our own human products. Natural selection develops incredibly complex products, but it takes thousands to millions of years for a noticeable change in most cases. Meanwhile, humanity has developed rapidly, especially during the last century. This rapidness was quantified with Moore's law. After the first integrated circuit was made in 1958, Gordon Moore noticed that the number of transistors on an integrated circuit doubled approximately every 2 years, a trend that drove rapid and exponential growth in computing power and efficiency. These increases in computing power led to early, basic forms of automation. An ATM, introduced in 1967, was an elite employee for banks to hire due to their low salaries, the cost of electricity and maintenance. Early ATMs could handle deposits and withdrawals with expert precision, but were no help whatsoever if you wanted to do any other bank-related service. These automated teller machines meant that the job of a bank teller had entered the automation spectrum, but was only at the very beginning. Banks still had a large necessity for human labor, with bank tellers still necessary for more complex interactions. During these times of rudimentary automation, the number of bank tellers per branch were reduced, and it was cheaper to operate a branch, meaning this early form of automation resulted in more branches and more bank tellers. As time progressed, innovation pushed the automation percentage of a bank teller job further along the automation curve. Online and mobile banking, a more advanced form of automation than ATMs, were introduced, able to automate more complicated banking tasks and lessening the need for people to go to a physical bank. This more advanced form of automation resulted in the number of bank tellers and branches decreasing. Today, tellers are often involved in sales, customer retention, and providing more complex services which could not yet be automated. Early forms of automation tended to perform well at a single task or a few tasks and would fail for any input errors, meaning human labor was still largely necessary. More robust forms of automation would require more computational power. Due to physical limits, such as the Planck length, the smallest possible physical length, transistors could not be made smaller forever, causing many to predict the death of Moore's law. But the number of transistors on an integrated circuit was never the goal. At the core, humanity has been incentivized through capitalism to increase their capacity to compute so that they can process larger data sets. Processing large data sets to make decisions is what the human brain does. So focusing efforts towards mimicking the human brain resulted in humanity designing neural networks artificially, setting humanity on a path towards creating artificial intelligence. Whereas the previous 100 years of traditional programming required a human to define every step, AI systems are trained on data to find their own patterns and solutions. And AI has presented its own version of Moore's law. AI agents often fail not because they lack knowledge for individual steps, but because they struggle to string together a longer sequence of actions without error. As task duration increases, the probability of failure rises for an AI system. So, a goal for AI developers has been to increase the AI system's ability to handle longer tasks reliably. A paper released in March 2025 showed, with strong evidence, that the length of a task an AI model can perform has doubled every 7 months since 2020. For example, while as of March 2025, AI could perform a 1-hour-long task, this trend predicts AI having the ability to perform a 16-hour-long task by 2028. Now back to the quote. Hard times create strong people create good times create weak people, and weak people create hard times. For a long time, this loop had been the way the world worked. Humanity evolved from having to beat out natural selection, as living and prospering in nature is no easy task. Natural selection is the hard times the quote refers to, and the humans who overcame natural selection used their brains to make humanity the most intelligent and most fit species on Earth. These are the strong people. Their intelligence, combined with the tribal instinct, led to civilization, specialization, and eventually surplus. These were the good times. If everyone worked hard on one task, the whole society would theoretically get the best of all of life's essentials. But a single human's natural curiosity may lead to them exploring other new ideas. This is what the quote calls weak people. The society that was developed would only work if each cog was a consistently working part, working on their one product and one alone. Any slowdown in output or a mistake or accident would have consequences felt throughout the whole society. When the person who was tasked with harvesting the carrots slacked off and left the carrots in the ground, the families of the village went the whole winter season without carrots, and the hard times returned. Natural selection would see the group select against the creative types who did not contribute repetitive labor, and the cycle would repeat. Today, with automation, we are encountering a new first for humanity. Automation can perform jobs which society previously relied upon human labor for with a significantly better output. If the output is better, people will choose it, and every technology lies somewhere on the automation spectrum. Once the underlying mathematical functions describing a repetitive job are understood, capitalism's optimization of technological growth will work towards replacing the human labor with automation which can perform the task at some defined level of significance better than a human. Many people are naturally inclined towards passions in their lives which are not their current job. Humans are naturally curious and creative from the time they are a child, and are so because of the brains that made their species so dominant. But most people have to give up their passions because of some realistic issue to work a repetitive job and avoid becoming the weak person in the cycle. When people are passionate about what they work on, they take care in delivering the best output. Repetitive jobs should be done by a brainless, automated machine. We should save human brains to be working on what they do best, which is being curious, creative, and developing new ideas. As such, our quote should be adjusted to account for automation. The cycle repeats countless times until automation is developed, allowing people to work on their passions. The quote stays in its original form for many iterations until, eventually, it becomes: hard times create strong people create good times create automation, and automation creates impassioned times. Full stop. Humanity finds itself at a crossroads, the point where a species has the ability to automate repetitive jobs. There are two paths humanity could now take, one with a UBI, one without. A UBI would help everyone, whereas no UBI helps the ultra-wealthy. A UBI would solidify capitalism as the means necessary for humanity to adopt a universal standard of living. No UBI would see capitalism destroy the free world and enter a Blade Runner type situation with the ruling family on top in control of all resources. A UBI would promote a life of creativity and allow humanity to escape natural selection. No UBI would affirm the great filter. The choice is yours. Let's investigate the current global wealth distribution. A heavily researched area, there are many research papers which already exist on the current global wealth distribution. These papers agree on an overarching theme, that distribution of wealth follows an exponential distribution for the majority of the population, the non-ultra-wealthy, and changes to a power law distribution for the ultra-wealthy. What does this look like? Let's get some data points and see for ourselves. Before working with these functions, we need a brief overview of the exponential and power law functions. An exponential function has the general form a plus b e to the cx, with variables a, b, and c. Letting a equal 0, b equal 1, and c equal 1 gives the natural exponential function. Increasing the a value shifts the function up, and decreasing shifts the function down. Zooming out, we see that the horizontal part of the curve approaches the a value, here -2. Increasing the b value scales or stretches the function vertically. Decreasing shrinks the function until we get to negative values, which flip the function over the line y equal a. Here a is 0, so it flips over the x-axis. The c value is the growth or decay rate of the function. Growth for positive c values and growing faster for larger c values, and decay for negative c values, decaying faster as c gets more negative. The other function we're investigating is the power law function, with general form kx to the power d. K is the coefficient. Increasing k stretches the graph vertically, while decreasing k compresses the graph until we get to negative values where the graph is reflected about the x-axis. D is the power. The graph takes on many shapes depending on d. For our purposes, observe the vertical asymptote appears at x equals 0 for negative d values. Now, let's get some data points and try to find a curve modeling global wealth distribution. First, we study wealth distribution for the majority of the world, the non-ultra-wealthy. This graphic from the World Inequality Lab gives data points for every 10th percentile of individual net worth. The data is in euros. We'll convert into US dollars for this video, and the data is as of 2022. The ultra-wealthy could be considered the top 1%, the top 0.1%, or even smaller. However it's defined, the non-ultra wealthy consists of at least all the bars outside of the top, which goes off the charts. So if the 8 billion people in the world in 2022 were listed in descending order of net worth, the 800 millionth has net worth 119,000 euros, roughly $140,000. The 1.6 billionth wealthiest at the 20% mark has net worth 53,000 euros, or roughly $62,000. And then all the way to the 90% point, which would give us the 7.2 billionth wealthiest person, would have a net worth of 330 euros, or roughly $387. There's a bit of an outlier at the far end of the graph, as the 8 billionth wealthiest, or least wealthy, has a negative net worth, looking to be roughly negative 40,000 euros. Neither the power law nor exponential function exhibits this behavior of sudden sharp decrease. A different distribution would be required to describe the wealth of this far end of the graph, the ultra non-wealthy, just as a different distribution is required to describe the wealth distribution at the ultra wealthy end of the graph. So we will omit this ultra non-wealthy data point for studying the distribution of wealth for the non-ultra wealthy. Here, I've copied the data points from the World Inequality Lab onto an online graphing calculator. So at the 10% point, we have a net worth of roughly $140,000. At the 20% point, we have a net worth of roughly $62,000. And at the 90% point, we have a net worth of roughly $387. Now that we have data points, we can use an online curve fitter to fit both an exponential and a power law curve to our data. Immediately, we see that the exponential has a higher r-squared value. The r-squared measures how well the curve fits the data, so this supports exponential distribution, better explaining global wealth distribution for the non-ultra wealthy than the power law. In blue, we have the exponential curve fit to the data points, and in red, we have the power law curve fit to the data points. Focusing on the exponential curve first, we see that all points are fairly close to the curve. Doing the same for the power law curve shows that the higher net worth points are close, but the lower net worth points are significantly further. Looking at a particular data point, we see that for the 80th percentile, while the exponential curve overestimates by a factor of about 2, the power law curve overestimates by a factor of about 4.5. So the exponential curve looks better for modeling wealth distribution of the non-ultra wealthy. How would it do for predicting the ultra wealthy? We can intersect the exponential curve with the y-axis to show how much the richest person in the world would be expected to have if the whole world followed an exponential distribution of wealth. As we see, this curve expects the richest person in the world to have $286,000. Adjusting for inflation from 2022 to 2025 doesn't really make a difference, as the richest person in the world would still only have $322,000. This is wildly inaccurate by many magnitudes. As of December 1st, 2025, Forbes lists Elon Musk as the richest in the world with a net worth of $482.5 billion. That means the exponential distribution gives a prediction 1.5 million times off. So while most of the world follows one distribution, extreme inequality allows the ultra-wealthy to not only reach a new stratosphere of wealth, but require their own wealth distribution. So the extreme inequality in the world can be characterized not only by immense wealth at the top, but by the ultra-wealthy needing their own wealth distribution. On this same graph, I've listed the top 20 wealthiest in the world according to Forbes. But we need to adjust our x-axis scaling, as before we looked at a range covering 8 billion people, and now we're looking at a range covering only 20. So number one, we have Elon Musk with $482.5 billion. Number two, we have Larry Page with $262.2 billion. And at number 17, we have Michael Bloomberg with $109.4 billion. And just as before, an online curve fitter fits both an exponential and power law curve to the data. The exponential curve has an R-squared value of 0.8994, while the power law has an R-squared value of 0.949, supporting the power law curve fitting the data better. These data points are much more volatile than the data points describing wealth for the non-ultra wealthy, meaning the R-squared values corresponding to the curves for the ultra wealthy are much more subject to change. But we will soon see why, regardless, the power law distribution is much better at describing wealth for the ultra wealthy. So in blue, we have the exponential curve fit to the data, and in red, we have the power law curve fit to the data. Visually, the power law curve goes through the points much closer than the exponential curve. So, a power law distribution models wealth distribution for the ultra wealthy better than an exponential distribution. The power law curve massively overestimates the wealth for the rest of the world. The 10th percent should be 140,000, but is instead 19 million. The 50th percent should be 14,000, but is instead 8.6 million. And the 90th percent, who should be the poorest people in the world, now have a net worth of $6.5 million if the power law curve would describe the net worth for the majority of people in addition to the ultra wealthy. And note this blue line from the exponential curve, sitting at about $112 billion. This is a value which the function can never go below, giving some insight as to why the exponential function doesn't work as well for modeling the wealth distribution of the ultra-wealthy. Because the growth of the exponential function simply isn't as steep as the current wealth distribution of the ultra-wealthy requires, whereas the power law function approaches the y-axis asymptotically. This is why we cannot say that the world follows one wealth distribution. It is more accurate to say the distribution of wealth follows a power law distribution for the ultra-wealthy and an exponential distribution for the rest of the world. The necessity for different functions explaining the distribution of wealth for the ultra-wealthy versus the rest of the world acts as strong evidence that the game of wealth accumulation is inherently unfair, supporting that capitalism as a political economic system lets the ultra-wealthy play by different rules than the rules played by everyone else. Imagine your bedroom. It always tends to get more messy. You can clean your bedroom until it's in perfect shape, but with use, it slowly becomes messy again. Sheets disheveled, clothes on the floor, and empty surfaces cluttered with papers, electronics, and the remains of a late-night snack. Entropy is the idea that it's easy for an ordered system, a clean bedroom, to become disordered, but it's hard for a disordered system, a messy bedroom, to become ordered. It would be nice if the messy bedroom would clean itself, but an outside energy source, a person, is required to bring the room back to its ordered, clean state. The second law of thermodynamics states, for any spontaneous process, the total entropy of an isolated system will always increase. More simply, this says things tend to get more disordered over time. A lower entropy corresponds to more order, while a higher entropy corresponds to less order. So, the messy bedroom has a higher entropy, and the clean bedroom has a lower entropy. It might seem that life contradicts this law through all the beautiful order we see in the natural world. But this is because life is not an isolated system. Living systems all use external energy to keep themselves alive. While a plant lowers its own entropy by taking in solar energy through photosynthesis, the sun is gaining entropy. Overall, the entropy of the universe increases. Similarly, while animals lower their own entropy through eating, entropy in the environment is increased with physical waste and heat losses. In general, life wants to lower its own entropy as much as possible. This is because decreasing your own entropy increases the number of ways you can spend or use energy. Natural selection is the process driving this behavior. Thus, where life is abundant, there are also found large concentrations of low entropy. Also, as a product of natural selection, humanity is driven to create order and decrease their own entropy. The human analog to lowering entropy is gaining net worth. Low entropy gives more ways to spend or use energy, just as more net worth gives more ways to spend or use money. In a capitalistic system, you are incentivized to claim resources to lower your own entropy before someone else does, just as occurs with natural selection. There are large concentrations of low entropy where life is found, so capitalism has developed methods to extract the low entropy out of concentrations of life which took millions of years to develop. Examples include oil drilling and ocean dredging. These methods would be okay if there were infinite supplies of large concentrations of life, but unfortunately, once used, they take millions of years to replenish. In general, the easiest, quick fixes to generate tremendous amounts of low entropy are not sustainable and impact the climate in a negative way. But the easiest methods are the ones incentivized in capitalism. Humanity must harvest energy to live. But if the current political economic system continues, the ultra-wealthy will continue claiming more and more wealth from our shared resources at unsustainable rates, flying private jets on a whim, clearing old-growth forests for massive villas, and harming the environment for their own benefit. Science recognizes the burning need to research and develop alternative methods of generating energy with fewer planet-warming effects. These harder methods have been selected against in the capitalistic system due to their high upfront costs. Most importantly, science would divide the collected entropy in a way which is much more equal for all humanity than presently occurs with capitalism. In summary, capitalism abuses entropy for the benefit of the ultra-wealthy in detriment to humanity. Science fights entropy and works for the benefit of all humanity. Things tend to get more disordered over time. Let's try to minimize the disorder, not maximize. $100 million. 12 athletes saw this salary in 2024. To support the earnings of these 12 athletes at the top, there are many more athletes at the bottom who could use parts of those $100 million contracts, scraping by with salaries below minimum wage, often needing to work other jobs to make a living. Sports are a microcosm of the capitalistic world they exist in, and capitalism is a net zero game. To win, somebody's got to lose. And when the pool is big enough, like the enormous pool of athletes, the bounties of success are that much greater, but are also that much more rare. Capitalism follows the rule of natural selection, where the winner gets everything and the loser gets nothing. Major League Baseball is the showcase of the select group of baseball players who have come out on top at every level of baseball. All the baseball players not in the MLB are part of the heavy majority of people who have not come out as winners at every level. Like in nature, they don't get credit for their losses, and those who continue playing for the love of the game scrape by. The mindset of capitalism centers on profit motive. If my product is more profitable than yours, then the success of my product is coupled with the failure of yours. And most importantly, you are not otherwise assured a universal standard of living. Your livelihood depends on the success of your product. It's the brutal game for the promise of innovation. Under these rules, humanity can never all win. Humanity can only have interest of self at the cost of others. If one player is okay in their own life, it's okay that an equal and opposite player is suffering. Until innovation brings automation. A net positive game becomes more and more possible, thus absolutely necessary.
Machines should do the work.
That's what they're best at.
People should do the thinking. That's what they're best at. Machines should work. People should think.
Machines
Should work.
people
should think.
Machines should work. People should think.
So I don't do much work anymore. I'm too busy thinking.
Capitalism plays a net zero game, just as science plays a net positive game. Capitalism emphasizes profitability, whereas science emphasizes creativity. The profit motive mindset of capitalism unleashed the floodgates to innovation. This tremendous innovation invented automation, leaving humanity at a crossroads. Currently, and for quite some time, innovation has taken up a large chunk of humanity's focus, and for good reason, as for most of human history, human labor was required for all jobs necessary for a universal standard of living. Now, as automation increases, human labor becomes less necessary, and humanity's focus can be directed towards improvements to universal living standards. Improvements to universal living standards are in the interest of humanity, as humanity can optimize utilization of a tool stronger than AI, human brains, by maximizing the time human brains can spend on creativity. Science is guided by the pursuit of knowledge, thus seeks a universal standard of living for humanity to nurture the creative brainpower which gave them Earth. With a proper education and motivation to freely explore creative passions, it is entirely plausible that a human brain's creativity leads to at least one other happy human, making creativity and science net positive. You've probably heard that the USA is the richest country in the world. By measure of nominal GDP, which measures the total market value of all goods and services produced, the USA has $30 trillion, making it the largest economy in the world. But by other measures, the USA is not the richest. For example, the USA is consistently ranked outside the top 10 countries in terms of quality of life. Why the discrepancy? The USA is rich in soft power, the ability to influence others through attraction and persuasion rather than coercion. The USA has become a well-oiled machine at learning what you like or have passion for, sports, music, art, and turning that passion into profit. Gambling, Spotify, commercialization. Joseph Nye, who coined soft power, describes it as everything from Hollywood to Harvard. It's what makes living in the USA great. The best sports leagues, the best movies, the best colleges, etc. But when the USA finds something people like, sports, movies, colleges, they learn how to turn the passion into profit in the most efficient ways, becoming billion-dollar industries, NFL, Hollywood, tuition, while squeezing out all of the quality of life they can. For example, take sports gambling. People choose to gamble on teams to win, just as they gamble on themselves to win. Every player on every team is gambling on themselves to win. Sports gambling gives a prediction on who will win. This is the service being provided. There does not have to be a single sportsbook owner with many paid subordinates, influencers, YouTubers, and professional sports leagues who solely profit. Microbets, easily tied to corruption and killing the integrity of sports, should be entirely banned. While traditional betting is picking a team to win, microbetting is picking a short-term event within a game, with outcomes resolved within minutes or even seconds. Say, a pitcher throwing a ball instead of a strike for the first pitch of the inning. A pitcher could easily throw the first pitch well outside the zone on purpose and cash in. The temptation is there. Why are microbets still allowed? Just as the USA is able to bring the best entertainment in the world, it has learned how to maximize their profits. Big gambling cares about money a lot more than integrity. And they make a lot of money through the betting tax, or VIG, associated with sports gambling. A betting tax could be given back to all humanity equally, just as state lotteries do. The service of finding that the New England Patriots have a 79% chance to beat the New York Giants happens through a passionate fan base armed with statistics to back their case and whose free will guides them to bet that their team will win. The market shapes what the odds will be, while the sportsbook idly collects a betting tax. Sports gambling will only continue corrupting sports, and other forms of grand entertainment will be similarly polluted if the current momentum does not change, and the USA's quality of life will continue diminishing while the country's richest get richer. That's the cost of all that soft power. Modern-day American politics have become much more focused on name-calling insults, straying from logic and the discussion of topics that really matter and impact the majority of people. This shift has coincided with the increased prevalence of social media and reality TV in our lives. Doomscrolling is an epidemic, and children raised on it are developing addictions that rival that of cigarettes in the 1960s. The algorithm behind doomscrolling, which tries to take every second of your day, can be used to influence ideologies, extremely dangerous for a developing child's mind. As this happens, social media and reality TV are becoming the primary way for people to consume the news. People in general nowadays do not actively choose media sources. They passively consume whatever content the algorithm of their For You feed feeds them as they doom scroll short-form portrait videos. People don't intentionally choose to watch or read some particular news outlet. They just stumble upon news content in their feed, and it's up to the algorithm to decide how informed or misinformed they get about the world around them. The ultra-wealthy have taken note, investing heavily in social media to control the news we see. They would prefer politics to imitate social media and reality TV because distraction from the topics that matter leads to their own wealth increasing. Because the ultra-wealthy don't care about doing what's best for all humanity. They care about what does best for their bank accounts.
Mr. President, there was a significant talk at the summit about climate change. I know in the past you've harbored some skepticism of the science and climate change. What do you think the world should be doing about climate change, and do you still harbor that skepticism?
I feel that the United States has tremendous wealth.
The ultra-wealthy treat the world as a reality TV game show, with the different world leaders being the different contestants. Imagine 10 world leaders in a room on a game show. Think Price is Right with 10 contestants. Putin from Russia, Narendra Modi from India, Pope Leo from Christianity, Friedrich Merz from Germany, Trump from the USA, Xi from China, Sanae Takaichi from Japan, a faceless, nameless character from the United Nations, King Charles from the UK, and Emmanuel Macron from France. It has the format of Last Man Standing, with a large sign displaying "Winner gets the world." The leaderboard lists their corresponding countries' GDPs. This is the endgame of capitalism. But imagine science breaks through. A neutral figure, labeled non-ultra-wealthy, walks in, daps up the United Nations, and somehow wins. The logarithmic tax curve is instituted, which, after some years of implementation, taxation, cuts 100 billionaires' net worths to 1 billion. With this money, a UBI is instituted, directly proportional to the percent that jobs necessary for a universal standard of living have been automated. This accounts for the working class salaries lost to automation being spread equally instead of automation benefits being stolen and funneled to the ultra-wealthy, allowing for more time spent on creativity, leaving repetitive tasks to be automated. The ultra-wealthy want the us versus them mentality of a reality TV game show to trick the viewer into thinking their actions are for our team or our country, while they are really only helping themselves. The ultra-wealthy saw it coming, so they chose the capitalism king of the country to be America's contestant on the world's game show, running the country under an ultra-nationalist front, and he learned how to game the show by running one by himself. Go Americans. Go Russians. Go Chinese. Go Europeans. Go Africa. Go Latin America. Go everyone else. Go plants. Go animals. Go everything. All humans matter because all humans can create. We must be pro-everything and be so as humans, not as Americans. We must see ourselves as equal. We must be incentivized to nurture each other because the creations of others further our collective life form of humanity. Enough only helping your own kind. This is what we and all other living species had to do because of natural selection. But on the forefront of the age of advanced automation, humanity has the ability to escape natural selection. Science knows no countries. Science wants the best for humanity. Ultranationalism is a product of natural selection. Smush all other countries and get the best for your own. But with the USA having 4.2% of the world's population, that means going against 95.8% of humanity. The strength of any country is bound by this fact. A single country cannot harness the interest and creative power of all humanity. Even if a country could work in the interests of everyone living under their own flag, this country would still be working in the relative disinterests of anyone not living under that flag. With science the political economic system of the world, the time people would need to spend working would decrease as automation rates go up. If universal standard of living job automation percentage were 30%, then a 40-hour work week would turn into a 28-hour work week. More time would be left for freely creative explorations. With a human brain given the financial security to spend 12 more hours a week on their passions, they will be increasingly able to develop specializations on those passions. All children brought up in this world would be entitled a tremendous education with well-paid public educators. As they develop, a point is made to remind children of their freedom of creativity. When the time comes and they mature into adulthood, they will be motivated to freely explore their creative passions. From humanity's point of view, more of the strongest tools known, human intelligence, can be put to work. Human intelligence, stronger than any artificial intelligence. For we hope there is some spark of human consciousness which can never be artificially replicated. Science unifies us under the promise of our collective intelligence. A human brain with creative freedom invents fascinating passion projects in ultra-particular subsets of the entire field of possible ideas. Each ultra-specialized from unique personalities, summing to a collective intelligence no longer limited by the confines of self-interest. We work together, all under the same flag of humanity.